Buonasera, and welcome to Critics and Cars Getting Home. Attentive viewers will notice the Lido out the side window there, which we just left, having seen what film?
MAFIA Mamma.
It's pronounced Mafia Mama.
Oh, yeah.
See, once you've spoken Italian
Mama.
as long as I have, you know these things. So
it's a film starring the wonderful Toni Collette. So the premise really appeals to me. The premise is basically Toni Collette plays a slightly pathetic suburban American mom who suddenly discovers one day not only that her husband is cheating on her, but that she has inherited a family business in Roma, in Italy. And she travels to Italy only to discover that actually she's inherited the role of being the head of a mafia family. And I have to say, I'm a deep lover of all of the Goodfellas and the Godfathers and all of those gangster pics. And I've always thought, if you could just continue the life before it gets into the bit where they actually get busted and wind up in jail and all that sort of thing, wouldn't it be grand? So there's an element of wish fulfillment in Toni Collette going along and suddenly finding herself in this particular context. But does it work as a movie?
Is it cinematic fulfillment? This is directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who originally did 13 and then did the first Twilight, I believe. And and she's a bit of a Kristen Stewart sort of person. So yeah, Catherine Hardwicke. So, female director, and it seems like it's quite a feminist fable in a lot of ways, because the other lead role in it is Monica Bellucci, playing the woman in the family in Roma, who is tasked with sort of supporting Toni Collette and ensuring that she does take on this new role. Unless there be any confusion about sort of the tone or the audience, it's not just inspired by Eat, Pray, Love, but it is mentioned copious times along with a very unprintable alternate version of that.
Think Eat, Pray, Shag.
Yes.
Only a little more R-rated.
Yes, which this movie has a few moments of, despite being quite plastic.
It's ostensibly a comedy.
She says ostensibly because I think we're the only two people in the cinema that laughed.
Well, no, I think other people chuckled in that, but I don't want you to get the wrong ideas, listeners, watchers, readers, because
we didn't laugh that much.
We didn't laugh that much, and to me, tonally, it's all over the place, and I feel as though there is a much better movie within. We've not talked about this yet, but within Mafia Mamma, there's a much better film that could have been an indie film. It could even have been a Rian Johnson type film.
Yeah.
Without playing for laughs, it still would have had its humorous moments if Toni Collette's character, Kristen Barbano, had simply embraced this new life and then had to learn how to deal with being the head of a crime family and all that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
well, nothing in the film rings true for a moment except Toni Collette's sort of commitment to a performance as a mid-40s, somewhat confused housewife who volunteers and probably has a book club where she drinks Prosecco and maybe comes up with an idea for a movie like this and thinks it'd be really neat. And
do you mean her as a character?
Yeah, her character.
Yeah.
I mean, Toni Collette is an actor with incredible range, and I think there's no version of this where a different performance saves the day.
Well, you say that. I love Toni Collette, but I would actually disagree for once about Toni, because I think that there are aspects here where she does hit the right, she nails it when she's playing this kind of limoncello, I've never had it before, kind of. There's aspects of that do ring true and are quite nice in a suburban mom kind of way, and then there's funny acting that she does that I actually think is probably Catherine Hardwicke's fault. I mean, the direction I thought was terrible. Yeah. And I thought the script was terrible.
Yeah. It's not a good movie. It reminded me of Sex and the City, the little that I've seen of that, in terms of, but if that had been sitting too long on the thrift store shelf next to the Godfather box set, and they just kind of started bleeding into each other a little bit.
Yeah.
But it didn't have any panache, and I mean, there could have
been so much better.
It could stylistically, it looks like TV
And that's not even fair to TV anymore.
And Monica Bellucci's not even that good. And,
No.
you know, she's a reasonably fine European I mean, you know, she's Italian. She's obviously fluent in Italian and French. And, you know, she has done some extremely fine work within foreign films, European foreign films. But in this, it's just kind of... And of course, it has that whole eat, pray, love... well, it has, as Doug says, it's very on the nose about following a lot of those cliches, which is fine. It's probably better that it acknowledges them than doesn't, because we're probably thinking
but
it
exists
anyway.
to serve them and be a strong empowerment tale, which is why I was curious as if it would resonate with you more as a woman, because it is firmly, like, I mean, it's called Mafia Mama. You know, it's obviously directed at the, you know, the aging female segment. I'm not aging.
Yeah.
You know,
the midlife crisis.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it is. Because you see, you know, it's not a spoiler to say the husband's cheating on her, and he is a drip. I mean, he is played like a total drip.
Oh yeah, and her workmates who are all men who don't respect her, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it's very on the nose in that regard. But you know, she just wants to go to Italy and fall in love with a hunk. You know, and the hunk is a total cliche in the Sex and the City mold, I would have to say.
Yeah.
So not my kind of guy. But I get it, you know, and actually sometimes she plays that really nicely and other times she just plays it like a giggling Gertie, which is a bit funny. But as I say, you know, I preface this whole thing with, I feel like there's a really interesting story here to find that actually you can empower yourself through this life of crime or through this life of power or whatever. And they walk an interesting line, you know, she's terribly, terribly nice, which actually is a pleasant twist on it. You know, she doesn't have to become a beastly woman in order to lead this crime family, but tonally, I don't know, it doesn't work as one thing or the other, I sort of feel.
I guess the thing is that I kind of enjoyed it to the extent that in the end you're still just kind of hanging out in Italy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, it's just some content that happens to be like, no matter how dumb the film is, if, you know, you're walking on through the center of Rome or you're in the middle of a vineyard or something, there's a bit of escapism. Is it worth getting out to the cinema? I don't think I can improve on a line that I saw on Letterboxd, which is like, you know those Netflix series that you watch that are 10 hours and seem like they should have been a movie? This is like the movie version of one of those.
Right.
And yeah, it just has the kind of throwaway something you watch on your couch that is mysteriously in a cinema. For not really obvious reasons.
And looks wise, I feel as though it's been pipped to the post by The White Lotus. Because she spends her time in these incredible mansions and whatnot. And you're looking at the decor and you're thinking, oh, wouldn't this be lovely and what an amazing life and all that. But we've kind of had that. We've had that trip. We've been Jennifer Coolidge in a very similar sort of situation.
I get the impression it's a script that's been sitting around for a while. In part because they don't even use a chance to like throw a Duolingo reference in there, because of course she goes over not knowing any Italian and doesn't seem to learn it, but then kind of does. There's a lot that's incoherent.
Oh, there's a lot that's
internally.
Incoherent.
But you know, the scriptwriter is named Feldman. One of the other writers is apparently Tunisian. If you're expecting verisimilitude, go elsewhere. If you're expecting entertainment, probably go elsewhere. If you just want to look at pretty pictures of Rome and space out, you can probably go elsewhere, but this does have that. Great. We'll see you next time. Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.